Hello and welcome to Arnie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Clockmaker's Riddle. Chapter 1. The Silent Workshop. The workshop was a mausoleum of time. Clocks of every conceivable design, grandfather clocks with their stately pendulums, wall clocks adorned with filigree, pocket watches glinting faintly in the dim light stood frozen, their hands stilled at disparate moments. In the center of this silent cacophony lay Elias Thorne, the clockmaker whose name had once ticked through the city like a metronome of precision. His lifeless form sprawled across a hardwood floor, his gray eyes wide with a final, unspoken astonishment. No blood stained the scene, no shattered glass or overturned furniture hinted at a struggle. Just Elias, dead, and the clocks, all stopped. Holly Arnold stepped into the room, her boots whispering against the polished wood. At 28, she was the youngest detective on the force, a promotion earned through relentless curiosity and a mind that unraveled puzzles others deemed unsolvable. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, and her hazel eyes darted across the workshop, absorbing every detail. The air hung heavy with the scent of oil and sawdust, a mechanical perfume undercut by the faintest whiff of something sour, death, perhaps. Her wristwatch, a simple silver piece her father had given her before he passed, ticked softly, the only sound in a room where time itself seemed to have surrendered. She crouched beside Elias, her gloved hands hovering over his body. No wounds, no bruising. "Poison?" she murmured, her voice a low ripple in the stillness. Her gaze shifted to the clocks. Dozens of them, each set to a different time: 3:15, 7:45, 12:00, 5:30. Random, yet deliberate. A riddle carved in hours and minutes. Holly's lips twitched into a half-smile. She loved riddles. Detective Sergeant Miller lumbered in behind her, his broad frame filling the doorway. "Morning, Arnold. What's the story here?" Holly straightened, brushing a speck of dust from her coat. "Elias Thorne, 68, clockmaker extraordinaire, found dead by his assistant this morning. No obvious cause of death, but these clocks, they're not just decoration. Sarge, they're a message," Miller snorted, scratching his graying beard. "A message? Looks like a bunch of broken junk to me. Maybe the old man had a heart attack, and the clocks just wound down. Too precise," Holly countered. "Every hand is set exactly, no seconds off. Someone arranged this. The killer, I'd bet." He raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched into his withered face. "You and your theories. All right, Sherlock, have at it. But don't waste time chasing shadows." Corners on his way. As Miller retreated, Holly turned back to the clocks. Somewhere in their silent faces, the truth was waiting. She just had to wind it up. Chapter 2. The Apprentice's Tale. Jacob Finch fidgeted in the corner of the workshop, his lanky frame hunched as if trying to shrink from Holly's gaze. The assistant's hands were stained with oil, dark smudges streaking his pale fingers. He couldn't have been more than 22, with a mop of sandy hair and eyes that darted like a trapped animal's. "So, Jacob," Holly began, her tone casual but her eyes sharp, "you found Mr. Thorne this morning?" He nodded, swallowing hard. "Why, yes, ma'am. Came in at 8, like always. He was just lying there. I didn't touch nothing. Called the police straight away." Holly scribbled in her notebook. 8 o'clock, and he was already dead. "Dead as a doornail," Jacob muttered, then winced as if regretting the phrase. "I mean, yes, cold too. Been that way a while, I reckon." She glanced at his hands. "You work on the clocks a lot, apprentice, ain't I? Fix 'em, oil 'em, wind 'em. Mr. Thorne was teaching me the trade. Yet all these clocks are stopped." Holly mused. "Did you notice when they went quiet?" Jacob blinked, caught off guard. I dunno. Didn't hear any ticking when I got here. I guess." Holly circled the clock set to 3:15. "It's second hand absent. Interesting. You didn't wind them last night?" "No, ma'am. Mr. Thorne locked up after me. Said he had work to finish." She nodded, filing away his nerves, his stained hands, his evasions. Jacob was a piece of the puzzle whether he knew it or not. Chapter 3. Family Secrets. Isabella Thorne sat in the parlor of her father's townhouse, a delicate figure draped in black. Her auburn hair framed a face pale with grief, but her blue eyes held a flicker of something else, weariness, perhaps. Holly settled into a chair across from her, the ticking of a mantelpiece clock filling the silence. "I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Thorne," Holly said gently. "I need to ask about your father. Any enemies? Unusual behavior lately?" Isabella twisted a handkerchief handkerchief in her lap. Father was private, loved his clocks more than people, I think. No enemies I knew of. He was in good health, worked late most nights. Holly's gaze drifted to the mantelpiece clock, set to the correct time and still ticking. These stopped clocks in his workshop. Any idea why they're set the way they are? Isabella's fingers stilled. Stopped clocks? I know. That's strange. He hated when they stopped, said it was like time dying. Did he ever mention a group called the Order? A gasp escaped Isabella's lips before she could mask it. How did you? Yes, he met with them sometimes. The Order of Time, he called it. I thought it was a club for clockmakers. Nothing serious. Holly leaned forward. What did he say about them? Not much. Isabella's voice trembled. They believed time could be controlled. Somehow, Father was fascinated, but lately he seemed troubled. Mentioned a falling out with the leadership. The leadership, Holly echoed. Anyone specific? Isabella shook her head. He only ever said the Grand Horologist was someone powerful, dangerous, even. Holly scribbled the name in her notebook. The Order of Time. A thread to pull. Chapter 4. Rivalry and Envy. Mr. Reginald Hargrove's shop was a stark contrast to Elias's closet workshop, sleek, modern, with clocks displayed like museum pieces. The rival clockmaker was a wiry man in his 50s, his grey suit impeccable and his moustache twitching as he spoke. Yes, I knew Elias, Hargrove said, polishing a brass clock with a cloth. Brilliant man, terrible businessman. We argued last week over a contract with a wealthy client. He undercut me, as usual. Holly watched his hands, steady and precise. Where were you last night, Mr. Hargrove? He didn't flinch. Home, alone, reading. I heard about Elias this morning. Shocking, truly. You don't seem broken up about it, she observed. Hargrove's lips thinned. We weren't friends, detective, but I didn't kill him. Why would I? His death doesn't win me that contract. Maybe it wasn't about the contract, Holly said, her tone light but probing. Maybe it was personal. He met her gaze, unflinching. If you've got evidence, show it. Otherwise, I've got work to do. Holly left the shop, the tick of Hargrove's clocks echoing in her ears. He was hiding something. She could feel it. Chapter 5. Decoding Time. Back at the workshop, Holly stood amid the clocks, a notepad in hand. She listed the times: 3:15, 7:45, 12:00, 5:30, 9:10, and more, a dozen in total. No obvious pattern leapt out, no alphabet code, no mathematical sequence. Frustration gnawed at her, but she pushed it down. Thank Holly. What's the key? She ran her fingers along a grandfather clock, its carved wood cool to the touch. A faint click sounded, and a panel sprang open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were papers, photographs, letters, each marked with a time matching a clock. Her pulse quickened. The 3:15 photo showed a man in a suit slipping cash into a briefcase. The 7:45 letter confessed to an affair. The 12:00 document detailed a theft. Blackmail. Elias had been collecting secrets, and the clocks pointed to his victims. But why stop them? Why leave them like this? Holly's mind raced. The killer knew about the blackmail, wanted the evidence found, or wanted to send a message. She needed to know who these secrets belonged to. Chapter 6. The Order of Time. In Elias's desk, Holly found a silver medallion engraved with a clock and the words *ordo temporis *, the Order of Time. A library visit and a dusty book on secret societies confirmed her suspicions. The Order believed time was a force to be mastered, its members influential figures obsessed with legacy and control. Elias had been one of them. The times on the clock snagged at her. She cross-referenced the blackmail papers with Elias's ledgers, but the names were coded to initials only. Then it hit her. What if the times weren't about the victims, but the Order itself? Meeting times, rituals, codes. She needed to get inside. Posing as a clock enthusiast with an interest in Elias's work, Holly tracked down a rumored meeting place, an old observatory on the city's edge, its clock tower looming against the night sky. Chapter 7. Infiltration. The observatory was a cathedral of shadows, its dome open to the stars. Hooded figures gathered around a massive clock, chanting softly. Holly slipped in, her borrowed robe itching against her skin. She caught phrases: preserve the timeline, punish the betrayer, and spotted Hargrove at the center, his voice commanding. He was the Grand Horologist. She'd suspected as much, but seeing him here, masked and authoritative, sealed it. The Order's rituals revolved around time as power, and Elias had threatened that power. Holly edged closer, straining to hear. Hargrove spoke of a traitor who'd sought to expose them, a man silenced to protect their sacred mission. The clocks, he said, were a warning, a code for betrayal in their system, each time marking a tenet Elias had broken. She had her motive. Now she needed proof. Chapter 8: The Betrayal. Holly spent the next day piecing it together. Elias had planned to leave the Order. Disgusted by their escalating schemes, rumors of blackmail turned to threats, control over lives rather than mere secrets. Hargrove, fearing exposure, had poisoned him with a slow-acting toxin, then arranged the clocks to signal his fate to the Order. But time was running out. Hargrove knew she was digging. Jacob had seen her at the workshop late last night, and word traveled fast. She had to confront him before he struck again. Chapter 9: The Confrontation. The clock tower was a fortress of gears and shadows. Holly climbed its spiral stairs, her recorder hidden in her pocket. Hargrove waited at the top, silhouetted against the giant clock face. "Detective Arnold," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "You're persistent. You killed Elias." She shot back. "He was going to expose the Order, and you couldn't let that happen." Hargrove chuckled. He was a fool, thought he could walk away from time itself. The clocks were a message. Betrayal has a price, so you poisoned him. Holly pressed, stepping closer. "Set the clocks to your little code, but you didn't count on me figuring it out." His eyes narrowed. "You've no proof, don't I?" She bluffed, patting her pocket. "I've got enough to bury you and your cult." He lunged, a wrench in hand, but Holly dodged, the metal clanging against the railing. The clock's gears whirred as they struggled, her smaller frame weaving through his swings. She kicked his knee, and he stumbled right into the path of a swinging pendulum. It struck, and he crumpled. Holly hit record, shouting for backup into her radio. The tower trembled as the clock struck midnight. Chapter 10: Time's Revelation. Hargrove's confession spilled out as the police stormed in. Elias's death, the Order's secrets, all captured on tape. The society unraveled, its members arrested or scattered. Holly stood outside the precinct, the dawn light glinting off her father's watch. Time revealed all, she thought. Elias's clocks had stopped, but they had spoken louder than he ever could. She had solved the riddle, and though the city ticked on, she felt a quiet satisfaction. Justice, like time, waited for no one, but it always arrived. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.